What's happening? A little late start for me today as I'm sitting here watching this market. You know, I'm okay with understanding and respecting the fact that I missed the buy, which clearly is off the 50. NQ clearly bought off, this trend line as well. And I just, because I missed it, it's been a week where I haven't really gotten too involved, which is okay. I don't really mind that at all, actually. I don't trust either direction. Obviously, long or wrong at this point, and has been the theme for the week, and should continue to be the theme for the week. I would think, on a Friday, to have the recovery and the rally that we've had, as aggressive as it's been, I think, the chances of getting a new all-time high is clearly there. Especially, late Friday, going into next week, which has some pretty solid earnings reports as well. So as I'm looking at the daytime frame for the ES right now, I did a webinar with the TradeUp group yesterday. I had mentioned, the one thing that concerns me about this move is just how aggressive it has been compared to the previous ones we've had. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean it's going to drop. It just more for me, it helps me stay away from it and keep myself, out of trouble. Because if you're, I understand if you still want to be on the buy side up here, I get it. The trade was 100% down here, though. If you bought the 50, which I think a lot of people obviously bought the 50 as it bounced, that's the trade. You've just been sitting back this week, counting your money as it grows and living life. I think, what happens now for a lot of people is as this continues to go, they continue to either buy or effectively are trying to fade the move now because it's been so aggressive in nature. And because it's been that aggressive for me, I don't want to fade it, especially with contracts. I think that's very detrimental. But as it comes up towards this upper trend line, we have seen constant reaction from this trend line. It's been a difficult run for the ES to get above it and really move away from it, similar to the upper one in NQ. So, if we move up towards that trend line, which should take us over the 400 number and above, I would think, the potential is there for possible fade, maybe Monday. I would definitely not short this market into the weekend, especially with the earnings that we have next week. The bigger boys releasing. So when I'm looking at the daily, that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. As I'm looking at the profile, nothing's really changed in the profile from the ES compared to what I talked about yesterday. I still think that, the invitation for the laggards was set. I think they took that invitation. I think they're pushing this market higher on pure momentum. And, one thing that I do know is each and every time we get above this 44, 48 level, we seem to start to spurt out. So that's kind of what happened the previous time we were over here. We had this strong aggressive move above it, and then we had a following trend day above it. And then from there, it kind of just spurted out prior to, what happened Friday. And then, of course, what happened in the Globex session Sunday night, which took us all the way down, which we have now, fully recovered. So that's for me more what my interest is as far as monitoring this market is to see if the buyers are going to do anything more than just buy into, what could be strength on the sell side. Because something that seems to have changed, and I've kind of mentioned this prior, if it's right or wrong, who knows? But my thought process is, the given liquidity in the market and how there's so much new money entering the market, larger players, if they want to take profits, no longer have to push the market lower. They no longer have to sell the market off to get out of their larger positions because there's so much new money coming in. They're just buying into it, buy. They can really just sit close to the all-time high and, allow their position to be taken off at very great prices. So if that is what they're doing. Now, like I said, that's my take on it. I think it was very obvious prior to the Sunday breakdown, the Friday breakdown last week. If you're watching the tape throughout the week, it was very clear there's a ton of business being done towards the all-time high and a lot of absorption. So that's kind of my thoughts on ES. Like I said, hands off today. I have no interest at all, to be honest with you, which has kind of been my theme this week since missing, obviously just buying the dip, which, I was having a conversation with a guy in my trade room about, we were talking about maybe that's antiquated, thought process now of waiting for a pullback into it. And like I said to him, it is at this point, but it's a habit I'm not willing to form. And I'll be fine missing these trades over and over again. And just seeing where the market comes out, on a longer term basis, where are we in a year, 2 years, 3 years type idea? Do I want to be buying each and every dip or something, potentially going to change where all of a sudden by the dip, blows people out? So, for me personally, I see nothing in ES that interests me at all. Taking a look at NQ. NQ, again, super strong recovery back towards this all-time high. Again, we're back above this upper channel trend. Now, I'm not a trend line trader. I say this every single time, but it's something I monitor. And the fact that each and every time we get above here, NQ does seem to struggle a little bit as far as finding an aggressive buyer to continue the market higher. Maybe they get that today. Maybe they get that next week. We'll have to wait and see. But as it stands right now, I have no interest in longing NQ above this trend line. I have great interest if they pull back into it and hold of getting long for potential rally back up. But with this break above it, I just don't see a reason to be, long or short. I think if you're short, you're really just playing with fire and hoping for the best. Even though the market is clearly stretched out at this point, just based off the weekly. When I look at the profiles of NQ, NQ's been the stronger market here, and I say that, obviously all the markets have gone, pretty aggressively higher. But NQ has been kind of the one market that, they just seem to be smashing the buy button a little bit harder each and every time. And they're never really, getting below the open. So that would be my first look for change today. If you're looking to trade NQ, can NQ get aggressive below its open? Can NQ find a seller below its opening price? That would be, for me, the most important aspect early in the day is if NQ can find something below its opening price, maybe you get some sort of small liquidation early in A period or B period or something like that. And then you can go from there. But as it stands right now, it's just balanced in the Globex session. It didn't have any more aggressive move in the Globex session, which has been kind of the theme, which is I've always found strange on this current market. Where the one market or the one time frame that seems to be the most aggressive and most excited is usually the overnight players, right? They're far more bullish, they're far more buy and just never look back because they're so momentum based. So for me, I'll watch NQ for potential and change. That change for me, like I said, will come if NQ can find a seller below its open. Otherwise, I'm okay watching NQ as well, and just seeing where we end up on the day. You got to keep in mind, Fridays are not a day to get, paid. I don't care if you've had a good week, a bad week, it doesn't matter. Fridays are not the day to make your week, or, recover your week. They're just not, because your mindset's not right. You're so close to the weekend. You're thinking about what you're going to do tomorrow, what you're going to do at the close subconsciously, whether you know it or not. And you've tried to be more aggressive on a Friday. I mean, you talk to any guy who's done this long enough, and they'll tell you the same thing. It's such a dangerous day to be in the market because your personal mindset is not always, screwed on properly. And I know for myself, I've been victim of that prior. So, being able to pump my brakes on this and just let the profile say, NQ, yes. I mean, they're in interesting areas, but they're not in tradable areas for my strategy at least. So. That being said, let's move on to R2Y. Now, R2Y is the one market I have a trade on right now. And today is going to be a day where I'm either going to exit the trade for a loss or I'm going to watch for a continuation. I talked about the potential of the pullback starting off the 21-day moving average, seeing if they're going to pull it back somewhere towards 2160. That is still a potential there. It's much deeper. Sorry, it's much deeper than what I'm showing you here on the day time frame. The profiles themselves show kind of why the trade is in thesis what I was looking at. But today it's quite simple. If they can't take out yesterday's low, or if they take out yesterday's high, you have to eat that trade and move on from it. But the total process of the trade was hopefully to get and build substantial long position off that 2160 if it does move down there. It just hasn't worked out quite yet. But with that being said, when I look at how R2I traded yesterday, let me just square this off. A nice B-shaped profile The potential is there to get a secondary B-shaped profile, which would take me down into my support level 2160 area where I would expect the buyer to re-enter. I'm comfortable with allowing it to work early on here. Clearly, if they're going to get a B shape, we should do something very similar to yesterday, open and drop type idea. We shouldn't open and rally very much, if at all. I would think, if you open and rally anywhere up into the stem here of even the opening range of R2Y, I think you have to be pretty cognizant that you could be on the wrong side if you're on that the pullback side. So that being said, they're sitting in what I consider to be support resistance, 02 to 2210. We've talked about this level all week. How we respond from here will really gauge how I manage my trade-off. And if I allow it to work or if I just eat my loss and move on with it, right? Unfortunately, losses are part of trading, as crappy as they are. But that's where I am right now. The low is very, very important to me in R2I, and the high is very, very important to me. And that will gauge how I move on with the trade that I currently have on in R2I or not. That being said, that's really all I have for today as far as my prep goes. Like I said yesterday, man, I say like I said a lot. The aggression of this rally has put me on the sidelines. Plain and simple. I didn't buy the 50. I'm okay with it. I refuse to buy 100-point sell-offs. I just do. And maybe that's, like we were talking in the room earlier, maybe that's an old way of thinking. But I just refuse to do it, and I'll never do it. And I'll live with it. I'll live with missing these huge rallies because you know what? You don't make or break your career in 1 year or 1 week. Sorry, you definitely do it in 1 year. But you don't do it in 1 week. There's way too many trading days. There's way too many opportunities that will come and go. So, accepting and understanding that, I didn't buy the 100-point sell-off and the market rallied and being okay with just standing on the sidelines at this point is perfectly okay. It's something that you have to be able to accept. So have yourself a great weekend. I'll be back again Monday morning for a prep. We'll see where we are then. Trade well, trade safe, and I will see you guys again.